So we're gonna play a game called Zombie Dice.
I've got 2 brains and walkways, so I'm gonna go again. My family is important because without them, I would have never survived.
Of course, you know, nobody ever thinks that their child is going to have cancer.
Oh, that's just a reminder for my meds.
Ultimately, when your child is critically ill, you put your entire life on hold.
All I wanted to do was just see my family, and I couldn't because they were always at the hospital.
I think we both sort of knew what roles we were going to play and just fell into them. Ready? 3, 2, 1, go. There, that's mine.
The blindness, I think, didn't register for him at first.
Well, I do like doing Braille. F.
Good. I think being at Lake Joe is really quite incredible.
It was like a whole thing that the family could do together.
You know, you need an army behind you to get through this.
It's an experience that they have. It won't carry. It won't go forward. It won't debilitate them.
The concept of a family is ever-changing. Each family experiences its own set of unique joys, struggles, and successes. Join Canadian families in the disability community on journeys of growth, self-discovery, adaptability, and strength.
We are the Acosta-Pickering family, and we are one.
Hi, my name is Ollie. I'm a cancer survivor, and I am Abby's little brother. My family is unique because we're probably one of maybe the 100 families that get a children with this kind of cancer.
Ollie was diagnosed in November of 2019 with anaplastic large cell lymphoma. My name is Dawn Pickering. I'm Ollie's mom. It really is quite a rare cancer. Only about 5 kids in all of Canada get diagnosed with this each year, and a few hundred kids around the world. We knew in the weeks prior to diagnosis that something serious was going on because he had a very big bump on his neck.
I found the bump in July 2019 when my brother and I were like brushing our teeth in the bathroom. Hi, I'm Abby Acosta-Pickering. I'm Ollie's sister. So I alerted my parents that I thought he had a sunburn, and they said they would monitor it, and then it just started getting bigger and bigger.
So we took him to his pediatrician, who was pretty convinced it was just a bacterial infection. We did a couple rounds of antibiotics, and that didn't really clear it up. And then, you know, sort of at that point, we knew it was something probably more because it had really started to grow and expand. And so we ended up getting a referral to CHIO and then did extensive testing there to arrive at a diagnosis.
My name is Mario. My last name is Acosta. Ollie is my son.
However many, you need 2 dice, so whichever, just grab 2 dice.
Doctors, I guess, are trained not to think of whatever. They have a checklist, and you go through that checklist, and in your mind, you go, this is not rocket science. This is not a bump. This is not this. There's something serious here. And I think they sort of, with a bit of reticence, go finally to that stage, and then they come back and they tell you, and they're, you know, it's cancer.
Of course, you know, nobody ever thinks that their child is going to have cancer, so it was pretty life-changing.
Of course, Ollie's cancer diagnosis was difficult for the entire family.
It's pretty hard for everybody, you know, it's the parents, the kids, and even my daughter, right, who is sort of on the outside of it, but this is her journey too, right?
I knew it would be hard because even when the doctors were helping us to tell Ollie, he just was overwhelmed and didn't want to talk about it that first day. His type of lymphoma had a very good success rate with the chemotherapy he was going to have, and that, you know, we just had to have hope, right? This is what we needed to do. That's exactly what the oncologist told us from day one. She said, if he doesn't believe he's going to get well, you know, then he won't. So your biggest job is to make sure that he believes it, and you have to believe it too.
I wasn't panicked. I have a tendency to think about, okay, so what does this mean? What's going to happen? What's the next thing? In the moment, there isn't anything. In the moment, or at least for me, there wasn't anything. In the moment, it's, okay, how do we deal with this? What do we have to do? What are the next steps? It became very mechanical for me.
The extremely difficult job of relaying Ollie's diagnosis to Abby fell to Dawn, who picked up Abby after school. Abby was anxious to hear the results, so Dawn had no choice but to stop the car on the way home to deliver the news.
And then I just told her, you know, this is what the doctor said. He has non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and that's a kind of cancer. And she just started bawling. And she obviously, you know, was quite upset. And the first thing she asked me was, is he going to die? Which is certainly not something you ever want to have a conversation with your child about.
I was pretty scared, and I remember like thinking about like those movies when the main character gets told traumatic piece of news and how like everything like starts to fade in the background, and kind of feeling like that, just and like not knowing what to do, and then like having like a million thoughts rushing through my head, and it was really traumatic, and I don't think I'll ever forget it.
The family experienced dramatic changes to their dynamic.
There are, you know, massive parenting challenges when that happens. And so now you're trying to balance your time between two children, one who obviously needs most of your time and energy during, you know, a critical illness, and the other who is, you know, at a critical stage as well, because, you know, she was sort of in her tween years. She was just about to become a teenager, and there were a lot of big changes, you know, that coming for her as well. So that was probably one of the biggest, you know, sort of challenges, was trying to find a way to balance the needs of both of those children.
The shift in dynamic was especially difficult for Abby, as it was necessary for her to stay with friends for short periods of time during the initial phase of Ollie's treatments.
I felt really alone in those few months because it was constantly like Abby's going to this friend's house, or Abby's going there, and I felt like a burden. And I felt awful because all I wanted to do was just see my family, and I couldn't because they were always at the hospital.
I'm just putting a napkin to your right, okay?
From the moment of diagnosis, Mario and Dawn knew which roles they would have to play to make things work.
Because Dawn processes things significantly differently than I do, and her need to understand and catalog and categorize and make sure that things go from point A to point Z in a particular fashion. If I stepped in, it would be chaotic and sort of last moment, you know, and so I took a step back.
Ultimately, when your child is critically ill, in many respects, you put your entire life on hold, you know, your regular life, in order to just pour all of your energies into getting them well.
Ollie's cancer treatment started 2 days after diagnosis. However, after 2 rounds of chemotherapy, more cancer was discovered in his cerebral spinal fluid. Subsequently, it was determined he would need a stem cell transplant.
I knew it was going to be one of my family once they said that I couldn't use the donations from the other people who were in different countries because of lockdown.
The pandemic meant that the 3 perfect stem cell matches found in the International Stem Cell Registry would not reach Ollie. Mario, Dawn, and Abby had been tested while Ollie was in the ICU, and each were discovered to be half matches. It was determined that Abby's stem cells were the best option.
I thought, how can this work, right? Going from a full match to a half match, that can't be a good thing. But they assured me that, you know, with the latest anti-rejection drugs and what have you, that, you know, a related partial match could be just as successful, and in fact actually could have less side effects like graft versus host disease and other things that could be very dangerous.
I don't really think it's that big of a thing that I did, because I was the one who started it by finding the bump, and I was the one who was going to end it by giving the cells, and it made a lot of sense to me, so I did it.
We are one. We are one.
What does being blind mean?
Doesn't mean anything. Whether or not you're blind just means it's your choice. You choose to do whatever you want to do, but if you let it hold you back, then whatever. You stay in the shadows, and everybody else will just go on without you and do all the things that you love while you just stay back feeling sad for yourself.
Ollie's optic nerves were severely damaged from the lymphoma, leaving him legally blind. He does have some peripheral vision in his right eye, but can only see shadows and forms, while the retina in his left eye became fully detached.
The blindness, I think, didn't register for him at first. I mean, he knew, he did wake up, you know, from a procedure and said he couldn't see anything, so he knew that was the this situation. But I think he just wasn't sort of in a state of mind that he could really understand what any of it meant at the time. So it was only after he got out of the ICU that he started to sort of become more lucid and understand. And so when we were transferred back to the oncology ward, we started to have conversations with him about what what it was and what it meant. And he asked us, will I ever be able to see again? And we said, we don't know.
Once again, the family had to shift its focus, this time to dealing with Ollie's vision loss.
I realized that I did not know how to support, a blind child.
Dawn and Mario quickly learned that supporting a child with vision loss meant being more cognizant of their surroundings at home and changing his routines to accommodate his new needs.
The kitchen, how we've organized our front, what we do outside, our technology, showers, baths, getting changed, going to bed. It's everywhere. It's everything. But after a while, you don't think about it. And that you just got used to doing all of these things. And then you stop doing certain things, but your mentality is already there that, okay, we have to be cognizant of blah, 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 blah. So you just adapt.
I mean, there's still days. There are days when I think we're tired and we don't think about it quite as much. And I mean, honestly, worst parenting moments during blindness. We have let him bump into things. We have let him trip, and fall over things. So, I mean, I think that there are things we could still get better at, in all fairness. But most of the time, it's become, I think, second nature to us for the most part to try and make sure that we're thinking of him.
For Ollie, though, it meant having to relearn almost everything he knew before losing his vision.
It's going to be really difficult, but I'm willing to learn.
Including his favorite toy, Beyblades. A battle involving 2 spinning tops and a spherical stadium, which Ollie has to line up before letting the blade go from the spinner.
All right, you ready? You're not close to the thing, so line yourself up. You might want 3, 2, 1. When he asked me, Daddy, am I going to make it? I said, hey, dude, you got this. I actually won this one.
Congratulations.
Right. U. S.
One of the first things they did was speak to a vision consultant from Vision Loss Rehabilitation Ontario.
We started learning Braille virtually online with her and so on. And, he asked her a lot of questions about her vision loss and what she could do. And so it was kind of a really neat sort of way, for him to sort of realize even the people who are helping me have, experienced vision loss.
Well, I do like doing Braille. It is very fun, I may say, because now I get to challenge everybody with my words, and they never figure it out.
The family's faith played a huge role in dealing with the cancer diagnosis and treatments and the new challenge of Ollie's vision loss.
Prior to him getting cancer, we had been people of faith. We're Catholic, and we really believed from the start that God, in our case, was with us and really was helping us to get through some of the hardest things. And I think the really beautiful thing about this whole journey with Ollie is all of our friends of any faith, sort of came to us with their intentions and with their prayers, and every time it was comforting, and you just felt like you weren't alone.
Dawn found another way to deal with the traumatic experience of childhood cancer and blindness. She created a blog.
And so we started Ollie's Bump in the Road, which, I thought was pretty aptly named because it started with a bump on his neck. And we also sort of saw it as just one bump in the road, right? It's just, it's just one little tiny thing that we have to overcome in his whole life. And so that's, sort of where it was born. And it became quite therapeutic for me to do it as well, because when you're going through all of this, it is a mental and emotional roller coaster. Most nights when he was in hospital, I would, once he was asleep, just sit down and pour my heart out into the blog. I took a lot of pictures. I read a book, early on about childhood cancer, and one of the little nuggets I got out of it was, take pictures, which seems counterintuitive when your kid is that sick, right? But I said, take pictures because, it's a marathon. It's a long-term thing that you're going through, and you don't want to look back on it later and, sort of have years of your child's life missing. It is an important, milestone. It's an important part of what their whole life is going to be, going forward. And as painful as it can be, it's important to document.
Much to Dawn's surprise, the blog became a huge hit, with 250,000 views around the world over the last 2 years.
And I got these amazing messages from people saying, we're praying for you in Mexico, or we're praying for you in Italy, or, like all over the world. And it's really just incredible to me, that our little story resonated that much.
We are one. We are one.
My favorite thing to do with Hope is lie in bed with her because she thinks she's a human. She puts her head on the pillow and gets her body under the covers. And I'm like, okay.
In summer of 2020, when Ollie was getting ready to have stem cell transplant, we heard about the CNIB Buddy Dog program. And so we decided to apply. Basically, the program matches children with vision loss with dogs that were trained as guide dogs, but have some little nuance that, don't make them necessarily the best candidates for guide dogs, but they make great, buddy dogs for children.
So they said, do you want to have this, do you want to have a dog early, to my mom? And she was like, yeah, we're ready for a dog if you want to give us one. So we got Hope.
You can tell her, sit.
Hope, sit.
No.
Shake.
Good girl.
Good girl, good shake. Hello.
Which we kind of thought was just perfect because it was the very first thing that the oncologist had said to us on the first day of diagnosis, and that was that hope is the most important, success factor in all of this, that she could give Ollie any amount of medication, but if we lost our hope or we didn't believe that he was going to get well, he never would. So we just thought that was sort of a nice, it was coming full cycle, that ultimately after he had gotten well and had a stem cell transplant and fought that cancer, hope actually did, sort of come to him.
She does make me learn every day that she loves me and that she'll help guide me.
With Buddy Dog Hope in tow, the family visited the CNIB Lake Joseph Centre, located in the famed Muskoka region of Ontario, known for its scenic lakes and picturesque cottages. The centre provides camp experiences for Canadians with vision loss, and Ollie took full advantage of all the opportunities for him to explore.
I did tubing for the first time, I did kayaking, canoeing for the first time, and I did stand-up paddleboarding for the first time, and archery for the first time.
I think being at Lake Joe is really quite incredible, especially after 2 years, of basically constant isolation and an inability to go anywhere with our family as a whole unit. And so for us, that was quite incredible to have this opportunity. And then as sort of icing on the cake, we had, the ability to watch Ollie do all of these incredible things. And the greatest thing about the camp is their philosophy is, just take blind and low vision people and just have them try it. For me, I think the best moment was just sort of standing there watching him, get instruction in archery and just hitting the target and being so excited about it and climbing the rock wall and doing all these things that are just so incredible.
Abby wasn't sure about leaving her friends for a week over the summer.
But I actually quite enjoyed it, and I thought it was really fun.
Woohoo! Good job, Abby!
It was like a whole thing that the family could do together.
The family's visit to the CNIB Lake Joseph Centre brought about a change in Dawn and Mario's perspective about Ollie's vision loss.
I think I've made that shift from, oh my God, my kid's gonna be blind, right? And what will he be able to do, to what can't he do?
To say that my son has sort of taken something and gone way further than myself, that would be an understatement. And the fact that he's got a sense of humor, sarcasm.
Ready to take you down a notch.
Ready? 3, 2, 1. Takes no guff, won't be stopped, and I'm not as worried about him anymore.
You need an army, right, behind you to get through this.
Ollie's in that's here. Yeah, now. Good.
And, the old adage that it takes a village to raise a child is very true, and when you have a critically ill child, it's even more true. So every bit of positivity and prayers and faith, sort of helped us to get through it. I always say to people, Ollie is here today because of God and science, right? Ultimately, the two work hand in hand. God gave us science and the amazing doctors and so many people.
Oh, we got 2 bangs!
Oh, dude, you got 2 bangs.
You got 3 bangs.
2 bangs.
Oh my goodness.
My family is important because without them, I would have never survived.
As the family continues their journey, they're looking forward to a bit of normalcy to return to their everyday lives, including the direction their children's will take, knowing they're stronger for going through the emotional roller coaster of the last 2 years.
Guys, stop pressuring him.
They have a will to live, and I don't mean that in survival kind of thing, but a will to live. They're passionate. We're both very passionate, but they're to the nth degree, and so I just want to help him out on the journey now. I'm not really concerned that he isn't going to go somewhere or he isn't going to do something, or that this is going to crush Abby, or that it's an experience that they have. It won't carry. It won't go forward. It won't debilitate them. You know, what is the existential saying? That which doesn't kill you makes you stronger. I truly believe that they were both very strong kids, and they're just stronger for having gone through it and managed it. And on top of that, managed it during the time that we live in now.
I know, right?
Yeah, 3 bangs!
Oh my God!
Host, Victoria Nolan. Reporter, Chris Valet. Producer, Emily Ramsey. Videographer, Jeremy Kennedy. Editor, Darcy DeToni. Location sound mixer, Stephen Lorne. Integrated described video specialist, Simone Cupid. Audio post, Mark Phoenix. Graphics, Andrew Antonello. Senior producer, Michelle Dudas. President and CEO, David Arrington. Copyright 2022, Accessible Media, Inc.